Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to guide you through a topic that is just as fascinating as it is urgent. Today we're diving into that critical intersection where cutting-edge medical science collides with complex public health policy. We're going to take a really close look at India's healthcare landscape, specifically focusing on the massive push to expand access to innovative cancer therapies. We're talking about scientific breakthroughs, systemic bottlenecks, and the actual blueprints experts are proposing right now to save lives. If you're someone who loves seeing how large-scale structural challenges can be met with real macro-level solutions, you are going to get a ton out of our time together today. Let's get started. All right, let's jump right in with a number you really can't ignore: 1.5 million. That staggering figure represents the sheer scale of the rising cancer burden across India today. We aren't just talking about a slight statistical uptick here. We are looking at a sweeping demographic and public health shift that demands immediate attention. You know, when we talk about healthcare policy, it is so easy to get lost in the abstract theories or the high-level economics. But this number, it grounds us. It tells us exactly why this matters. Every single digit there is a patient, a family, and a community in need of care. The sheer scale of this crisis is exactly why experts are sounding the alarm.
So here is our roadmap for the Explainer today. First, we'll cover the rising cancer burden, then move to the innovation paradox and break down the access bottleneck. After that, we'll ask, why a national strategy, before finally digging into the expert blueprint.
Okay, Section 1, the rising cancer burden. Let's understand the true scale of the challenge in India.
A cancer diagnosis doesn't just happen in a vacuum, right? It reverberates. It hits a family's emotional well-being hard. It drains their financial stability. And on a macro level, it actually impacts the broader societal workforce and the economy. When a disease scales up as rapidly as we're seeing in India, the traditional, localized methods of managing care simply buckle under the pressure. The experts are highlighting a really crucial point here. Piecemeal efforts are no longer enough. The overwhelming human and societal impact means we need a massive systemic intervention.
And that brings us to Section 2, the innovation paradox. This is where science clashes with accessibility.
Let's demystify some of the medical jargon for a second. When experts talk about innovative cancer therapies, what they're actually referring to are incredibly cutting-edge treatments, things like biologics and targeted gene therapies. Instead of just acting indiscriminately in the body, these treatments are precision-designed to attack specific cancer cells right at the molecular level. We are literally living in an era where scientists can map a tumor's genetics and deploy a therapy to target that exact mutation. It's the absolute miracle of modern medicine. To put it in perspective, think of traditional therapies kind of like a sledgehammer. They are effective, sure, but they often carry severe side effects because they hit both healthy and cancerous cells indiscriminately. Innovative therapies, on the other hand, are much more like a highly trained lockpicker. They offer vastly improved patient outcomes, extended survival rates, and just a completely different level of precision. The science is leaps and bounds ahead of where it was even 10 years ago. But here is the paradox. What good is a literal miracle cure if the patient who desperately needs it can't actually get it? Which leads us directly into Section 3, the access bottleneck. What is actually keeping these treatments out of reach? When you look at the reality on the ground, there are basically three massive walls standing between pharmaceutical innovation and the average Indian patient. First up, a massive 40% of the problem is just sky-high out-of-pocket costs. These biologics cost a fortune to develop, and without a huge insurance safety net, that burden falls directly on the patient. It completely prices out the vast majority of people. Second, 30% of the friction comes from a lack of specialized infrastructure. You can't just hand these drugs over the counter. They require advanced diagnostic testing, intense cold chain storage, and highly trained oncologists, which are almost entirely concentrated in major urban centers. And finally, the remaining 30% stems from regulatory hurdles that seriously delay the approval and rollout of newer drugs into the domestic market.
The experts point out a really profound inequity here. We've built the medical capability to save lives, but the economic and structural pipes meant to deliver that capability, they are fundamentally clogged. Systemic barriers are keeping incredible therapies entirely out of reach. The core argument being made is that healthcare innovation isn't actually complete until the delivery mechanism is just as innovative as the drug itself.
So how do we clear those pipes? That's Section 4, why a national strategy, moving beyond fragmented solutions.
Right now, the system is totally fragmented. You have individual hospitals, distinct state programs, and isolated pharmaceutical initiatives, all trying to tackle this access gap in silos.
And as a result, their reach is severely limited. Resources get entirely wasted on redundant administrative processes, and massive populations just fall through the cracks. But if you implement a unified national strategy, you exponentially scale up that reach. You finally match the response to the actual scale of the crisis we talked about at the very beginning.
The crucial takeaway here is that solving a bottleneck of this magnitude requires a totally unified policy approach. A cohesive national strategy is really the only way to align the three major players: the government, the pharmaceutical industry, and healthcare providers. Think about it. If the government just demands lower prices but doesn't fix the regulatory pathways, the system fails. If pharma creates assistance programs but hospitals lack the infrastructure to deliver the drugs, it fails. They absolutely have to operate from the exact same playbook.
All right, now that we understand the why, let's look at Section 5, the expert blueprint. These are the specific pillars of the proposed strategy.
To actually pull the right economic and regulatory levers, experts have laid out a very clear three-pronged blueprint. Pillar 1, developing innovative pricing models. That means ditching the flat, prohibitive costs and moving toward value-based pricing, or tiered pricing, that actually suits the local economy. Pillar 2, boosting local manufacturing capabilities. Listen, India has massive domestic pharmaceutical manufacturing power. If they can leverage that to produce these complex biologics locally, the cost of production and the supply chain logistics completely plummet. And Pillar 3, expanding comprehensive insurance coverage. The public and private sectors have to work together to make sure insurance schemes actually cover these targeted therapies, which totally removes that devastating out-of-pocket barrier for the patient.
As the experts emphasize, getting this cohesive national strategy in place isn't just some bureaucratic wish list, it is an absolute necessity to save lives. The blueprint is right there. By addressing pricing, local manufacturing, and insurance simultaneously, all under one national umbrella, these systemic barriers can literally be dismantled. We don't want these scientific miracles just sitting in a laboratory somewhere. They need to make it into the hospitals and the homes of the people fighting for their lives. Which leaves us with this final vital thought to consider today. Innovation is truly only a breakthrough if it actually reaches the patient. The science, it's already here, waiting. The blueprint for access has been clearly drawn up by the experts. So the only question that remains for the future of public health is this: will India be able to align its massive systems and build this bridge in time? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking the big questions, and I'll see you next time.